Hi everyone, it's Justine. There are many good reasons to learn about fabrics. For instance, if you're a consumer, you're shopping for clothes in a store. If you understand how the fabric is made and what's inside, then you can tell whether it's worth your money or not, and the price tag that's on it. If you're sewing yourself, then you need to be able to select the right type of fabric and the right fiber for the garment that you plan on making. So fabrics are actually a very important part, and usually we don't know enough about them. Hence the point of this video. When you work in fashion, there are two important moments in the year. It's fabric fair seasons. You have fabric fairs in different cities, but they all group together. You have one wave for winter fabrics and another one for summer fabrics. You go to fabric fairs, shop for fabric samples on a rack, like shopping for clothes. You have the samples shipped to your office, and then when you start designing, you have all potential samples that could work at hand already. And when you're drawing, you can at the same time select fitting fabrics. It makes a lot more sense to do that process in an integrated way. So the last round of fabric fairs just finished. So I'm receiving boxes on boxes of fabric samples. Now is a great time to talk about fabrics and show you guys pretty ones. It's fun, and you're gonna see how much is possible in the world of fabrics, a lot more than you'd think. It's very creative, very impressive, and quite inspiring. I want to especially show you the kind of fabrics and fibers that there are, at least the main ones, how to recognize them, what their properties are, and what they're good for. Not necessarily in that order, we'll see, but that's the content I want to cover. So actually it's not just one video, it's going to be a little series. We'll see how many episodes we're going to need to get through all of that. It's quite a bit of content really. So this is part one. First essential question, is the fabric woven or knitted? There are two main families of fabrics, the wovens and the knits. Woven is a fabric where two yarns are crossing, vertical yarns, horizontal yarns. Two yarns are crossing to build a kind of checkerboard structure. So the first yarn, for example, will go front, back, that's your first line. You might have done bracelets like that when you were a child. The second line goes the opposite, so back, front, and so on. You do that multiple times, you get a woven fabric. You see it very well on this fabric swatch here in red silk, because they used groups of yarns instead of single yarns, so the weave is a lot bigger. Imagine the same system but in smaller, like this one here, where you almost need a magnifying glass to actually see the yarns. Both are woven fabrics. A knitted fabric, on the other side, is with only one yarn. Imagine grandmas knitting on their big needles. They only have one ball of wool, right? Not two. This sample is big enough for you to see it well. I have only one yarn, it's here. If I start pulling on it, the whole thing is gonna come undone. That's why you never, ever cut a loose thread that sticks out of a knitted wool sweater, for instance. That would create a hole, and the hole would only grow with time on both sides, because now you're creating two loose ends. Woven is, for instance, a tailored shirt that's fitted and crisp. If you can't do this when you have it on, chances are high that it's woven. Chino pants, the fabric is also quite stiff. It doesn't really stretch, right? Even though it's lightweight fabric. More on that in a minute. Denim, your blue jeans are usually a twill weave. That's another type of weave that I will show you later on. A classical trench coat is usually also in woven fabric. In general, if the fabric is stiff, if it's fitted, if it's a tailored piece, or if it's formal wear in general, chances are very high that the fabric is going to be a woven fabric. Knitted fabrics are, until now, rather used for casual wear, because the way it's made just gives it more stretchiness, and that's very comfortable. So for instance, hoodies, sweatpants, classic, but also sports leggings, very fine type of knitted fabrics, can be really, really light and really thin. Swimwear is also knitted. Stretchy underwear will also be in knitted fabrics. All those knits are usually in jersey knit, because that's the most common and also the easiest way of knitting something together on a machine. Not just with two needles like a grandma knitting, but with 100 needles at the same time. It goes a lot faster than hand knitting, obviously. But there are many more types of knits than just jersey. And knits can be used to make any garment. I'm a huge fan of knits, so I will definitely get back to that later. There are different fabric weights for different purposes. Now we're getting into concrete fabric examples. Once you know if you're looking at a woven or a knitted fabric, the next question logically will be, what's the fabric weight? How tight is it? No? How heavy? So we usually say lightweight, midweight, heavyweight. There are three main categories and they serve different purposes. So they're good for different types of garments. Lightweight will be, for instance, the fabric of a t-shirt or summer blouse, something light and flowy. This one has 140 grams. Less than that would start to be see-through, which can be okay for a top if you like it sexy and very summer-like, but that's clearly not okay for a bottom, pun intended. The equivalent in woven, because that's a knitted one, that's t-shirt fabric. The woven one would be this blue thing. Ignore the fact that it's shiny for now. Just look at the weight, it is really flowy. And see on the sides, it's fraying vertically and horizontally. That's another sign that this fabric is woven. Midweight fabrics would then be good for a skirt, maybe a dress, summer pants or thin sweaters. This one has 180 to 200 grams. It always varies a bit in production, so you get a range like this from suppliers. It's definitely not see-through. It's not flowy. It weighs more than the previous one. If you compare how they fall, you can really tell the difference. This gray one was knitted. A woven version of a midweight fabric would be this little tweed thing. It wouldn't do for a winter jacket yet. It's too thin, right? It's not heavyweight enough. It's midweight, and you can also see here clearly that it's woven with the color. And then heavyweight fabrics would be used for thick trousers, warm sweaters, for jackets, or for outerwear really. You'll see a lot more heavyweight fabrics in winter collections. This one has 510 grams, really thick. This allows you to even have a backside that's different from the front look. The wind here will barely come through. It is warm and cozy. And a woven version is that wool piece. It's really heavy, really thick, really tight. The weight of a fabric is influenced by its thickness, but not only. See, my blue sample is a lot thicker, as it seems, than the brown one. But the brown one is knitted in a much tighter way, so it's actually heavier weight. When you're shopping for fabrics or garments, in general, the heavier the weight, the more expensive the fabric or the garment is going to be, because you need more fibers to build that fabric. It's heavier, it's more raw materials. That brings us to the different types of fibers, natural ones, synthetic ones, but that's a whole part in itself. I could talk about that for hours. I love that. So let's say that it's going to be in the next episode. So to be continued. When the next episode is released, I will link it here. So you will see a little card appearing in the corner of your screen, or check the description below. I link the second episode in capital letters. You can't miss it. So you'll find it there. You will see things like this, and this. You won't find fabrics like that in mass market stores because they're too expensive for the margin requirements of mass market brands. But if you know how to recognize better fabric that's tighter, that's heavier, that's more creative in the way it's woven or knitted, then you'll be able to spot them in the stores and to appreciate the quality. And that's my purpose. To follow this little video series, subscribe to my channel and don't forget to also activate the notifications by clicking on that little gray bell next to the red subscribe button. I'll see you very soon again, and until then, take care. Bye bye.